The Dirty Dozen are back, again. In 1987's The Deadly Mission, Telly Savalas returns to lead a new ragtag crew of military misfits on a suicide run deep into Nazi territory. But does this third installment in the legendary war franchise capture the same gritty charm of the original? Or has the formula grown stale? Join us as we break down the action, characters, and wild plot of The Dirty Dozen, The Deadly Mission. This is retro war movie chaos at its best, or worst, you decide. When The Dirty Dozen premiered in 1967, it smashed through the war film genre like a hand grenade through barbed wire. Tough, rebellious, and packed with explosive anti-hero energy, it redefined what a World War II movie could be. Over time, it evolved from a gritty hit into a full-blown franchise, complete with 2 made-for-TV sequels in the 1980s. And that brings us to today's topic, The Dirty Dozen, The Deadly Mission, released in 1987. Now, before we dive into the plot, explosions, and glorious absurdity, let's just clear one thing up. This movie has almost nothing to do with the original. Sure, it carries the Dirty Dozen name. Yes, it has a familiar format. And yeah, Telly Savalas is back, bald head and all. But here's the twist. He's playing a different character than the one he played in the original film. Confused? You're not alone. But that's part of the charm of this 1980s war film curiosity. It's loud, it's messy, it's got Nazis, machine guns, and a whole bunch of explosive cliches. So buckle up. We're going behind enemy lines to unpack The Deadly Mission, and trust me, it lives up to the title. The setup, a suicide mission, obviously the year, is 1944. The Allies are closing in, but the war is far from over. Intelligence reports indicate that a group of Allied scientists, including Jewish scientists, have been captured by the Nazis and are being held in a remote fortress in the French Alps. The Germans plan to use these scientists to develop advanced chemical weapons, including nerve gas, to turn the tide of the war. If they succeed, it could spell catastrophe for the Allies. Enter our main man, Major Wright, played by none other than Telly Savalas. Now, in the original Dirty Dozen, Savalas played a psychotic Southern religious fanatic named Archer Maggot, who didn't exactly survive the mission. But here, he's reborn as a gruff, tough-talking major in charge of this deadly mission. And because this is The Dirty Dozen, you know exactly what's coming next. That's right, he assembles a team of condemned criminals from military prisons. Murderers, thieves, insubordinates, and misfits, guys with nothing left to lose. Their reward? A chance at freedom if they survive. The premise is simple and familiar, but let's be honest, that's why we're here. You don't watch The Dirty Dozen for nuance. You watch it for attitude, action, and the thrill of watching a bunch of scumbags become heroes, at least for a few hours. The Dozen, or close enough. One of the joys of these movies is the roll call, the moment we meet each member of the team. In The Deadly Mission, we're treated to a fresh batch of degenerates, each with their own quirks, backstories, and very 80s facial hair. There's Lieutenant Flaps Hawkins, the expert pilot with a chip on his shoulder. There's Joseph Stern, a concentration camp survivor who brings a personal edge to the mission. You've got Private Martin, a calm and collected demolitions expert. And then there's Bertoli, an Italian-American gangster who brings that classic tough guy from the Bronx flavor. Each character gets a moment or two to shine, but let's be real, they're mostly archetypes. They're not here for deep psychological drama. They're here to shoot Nazis, throw grenades, and argue with each other until the bullets start flying. And for the most part, that's exactly what they do. What makes this team dynamic interesting is that they're not just misfits. They're broken. They've lost everything, they don't trust authority, and they're not exactly thrilled about following orders. But under Wright's leadership, they begin to form a bond, forged in fire and fueled by revenge, guilt, and desperation. The mission. The group is dropped into occupied France under cover of night. Their objective, reach the mountain fortress, infiltrate the facility, rescue the scientists, and blow the place sky high. Easier said than done. As they move through occupied territory, they encounter all the classic war movie obstacles. Ambushes, betrayals, Gestapo checkpoints, booby traps. And of course, an obligatory scene with the French resistance. One of the standout sequences involves a deadly confrontation in a Nazi-occupied village, where our heroes are forced to blend in, sabotage a German communications post, and escape without blowing their cover. It's old-school action at its best. Tense, ridiculous, and filled with slow-motion gunfights. Eventually, they reach the fortress, And this is where the movie goes full 1980s action mode. The final act is basically a giant explosion-filled shootout as the team storms the compound, guns blazing. Nazi officers shout orders in German, explosions go off in every direction, and the dozen mow down enemies like they're in a video game. It's over the top, yes, but that's the point. The Deadly Mission doesn't want to be a sobering war drama. It wants to be fun. It wants to be popcorn warfare, and if you're in the right mood, it delivers. Telly Savalas, the bald-headed backbone. Let's take a moment to appreciate Telly Savalas. By 1987, he was best known as the iconic lollipop-sucking detective Kojak, but in The Deadly Mission, he leans into his grizzled persona with style. His Major Wright is authoritative, cynical, and willing to bend the rules to get the job done. He's not exactly like Lee Marvin in the original Dirty Dozen, but he channels that same crusty leadership energy. Savalas is the glue that holds the movie together. Even when the plot gets silly or the action gets cartoonish, he never breaks character. He plays it straight, and that helps sell the movie's most absurd moments. Made-for-TV madness. Now, let's talk production. This wasn't a big-budget theatrical release. It was a made-for-TV movie, aired on NBC in March of 1987. That means it had some limitations. No gory violence, limited runtime, and a budget that probably didn't stretch too far beyond a few decent pyrotechnics and a handful of rented uniforms. But honestly, the movie embraces those constraints. The filmmakers make the most of what they have: location shooting, decent practical effects, and a cast that commits to the material. It's a little rough around the edges, sure, but it's got heart. And when it comes to 80 seconds TV war flicks, that counts for a lot. So how does The Deadly Mission compare to the original Dirty Dozen? Well, nothing tops the 1967 classic. That film was a game changer, packed with iconic performances from Lee Marvin, Charles Bronson, Jim Brown, and Donald Sutherland. It had edge, grit, and a biting anti-authoritarian streak that felt radical for its time. By contrast, The Deadly Mission is pure throwback fun. It doesn't try to innovate. It doesn't have much to say about the nature of war or the morality of violence. It just wants to entertain. And if you judge it on those terms, it does a pretty decent job. The characters are less fleshed out, the story more formulaic, but the pacing is tight, the action constant, and the energy high. For fans of the franchise, it's like hanging out with an old friend, even if that friend's had a little too much to drink and won't stop talking about how many Nazis he's punched. Legacy and follow-up. The Deadly Mission was followed just a year later by The Dirty Dozen, The Fatal Mission, which once again brought back Telly Savalas for another go-around. That film tried to up the stakes even more, but by then the formula was wearing thin. The novelty had faded, and audiences were starting to move on. Still, the fact that the Dirty Dozen brand lasted this long is impressive. It spawned a sequel, 2 TV movies, countless parodies, and inspired everything from Inglourious Bastards to Suicide Squad. The idea of a group of broken men fighting for redemption is timeless, and The Deadly Mission is part of that legacy. Final thoughts. The Dirty Dozen, The Deadly Mission, is not a masterpiece. It's not subtle, it's not even all that original, but it is fun. It's a war movie made for a Sunday night designed to deliver explosions, one-liners, and a familiar rhythm of rebellion, sacrifice, and victory. It takes the bones of a great idea, slaps on a new coat of paint, and asks you to come along for the ride. If you're a fan of 80s action, retro war flicks, or just love watching Nazis get what's coming to them, then The Deadly Mission might just hit the spot. So grab your fatigues, load up your grenades, and get ready. Because the dozen may be dirty, but they're still getting the job done.